USC travels to the north to battle the undefeated Oregon State Beavers. Will USC keep the hype train rolling, or will they fall victim in Corvallis like Trojan teams of the past? We'll talk about that and more on this week's USC Game Preview. Hey guys, welcome into this week's Game Preview. It's only week 4, and USC could arguably be playing their second hardest game on their entire schedule. When you look at this matchup on paper with strengths and weaknesses, Oregon State does a lot of things well that USC does not do well. In my record prediction video prior to the season starting, I labeled this game as a loss. And how could we forget that this is an Oregon State team that came into the Coliseum last year and absolutely throttled the Trojans. They know who they are, they have an identity, and they play with confidence. I forget who it was, but earlier in the week, someone said that Oregon State is the team everyone says Stanford is, and I couldn't agree with that more. They want to line up with 3 tight ends, they want to use a fullback, and they want to smash you in the face and run the ball. We are going to find out a ton about this USC team in terms of their mental strength this week. Oregon State is going to challenge you, and they're not going to be scared of you. Something tells me that the holdover guys from last year have this game circled on their calendars. I don't know, just a hunch. Alright guys, so let's meet these Oregon State Beavers, and we'll start with the offense. The offense is led by veteran quarterback Chance Nolan. I really liked what I saw out of Chance last year, and I was even higher on him going into this season. His game reminds me a ton of Cody Kessler. He's athletic enough to make plays, he has phenomenal accuracy in the short to intermediate game, and he's a great decision maker. When you would watch him last year, he was really more or less a game manager, but this year he really seems to have full command of this Jonathan Smith offense. The way I look at it is that some really fast cars come with 2 different sets of keys. One limits the horsepower to about half, and the other is the full bore, full horsepower. This year, Jonathan Smith has given Chance Nolan those full bore keys, and you can really see it when you watch him play. He's decisive, he has good footwork, he knows where he's going with the ball. If you could craft the perfect quarterback to run this Jonathan Smith offense, I think you would just come up with Chance Nolan, to be perfectly honest. Now, a really big piece of news that came out a few days ago is that superstar tight end Luke Musgrave will not be playing in this game, and in fact, he's going to be out for a while, so that's a huge blow for the Beavers offense. He didn't play last week either against Montana State, and he's still their second leading receiver. And as good as he is as a receiver, he honestly might be even a better blocker. So just overall, a gigantic loss for this Oregon State offense. But with Musgrave out, their new top target is wide receiver Trayshawn Harrison. He is listed at 6'1", 191. He's not the fastest wide receiver out there, but he has great hands, vision, and run after catch ability. On the year, he has 16 receptions for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's also averaging 13.7 average yards per catch. Now, they'll have him do a lot of different things. They'll throw him a tunnel screen occasionally or a bubble screen. He has a very big route tree. There's not a lot he can't do, so look for him to be a big target for their offense. The big play threat in this Oregon State offense is 5'8", 164-pound burner Anthony Gould. Now, at that size, you would assume he'd just be more of a gadget player like a Tavon Austin per se, but what I was very surprised to see is that they use him a lot in the vertical passing game downfield. And he's good at it too. I mean, he gets separation. On the tape, multiple times I saw him go up and get a contested catch, which I was shocked to see at his size. He's averaging 23.5 yards per catch, so containing him is going to be key for this defense. They will also use him in the screen game as well, so the USC defenders are really going to have to tackle well in this game. We've seen how this USC defense can give up explosive plays. The last thing you need is to let that dude get into space because he could be gone. Now, while the passing game is much improved for Oregon State, this is a run-first offense, and their number 1 running back is Deshaun Fenwick. He's a 6'2", 226-pound workhorse. Now, they don't really use him at all in the pass game, but he loves to put his pads into people, he's not afraid of contact, and he's definitely going to be a full day for the USC defenders. Now, he's not just some big, slow bruising back. He has the speed and vision to bounce it to the outside and show his agility to make someone miss. In terms of just being a pure runner of the football, I think he's one of the better running backs in the conference. He's definitely a guy you don't want to let get into a rhythm because he can take over a game and really make life hard on this defense. Alright, so let's talk about this Wildcat package that Oregon State runs. Now, some teams, when they go Wildcat, they'll just motion the quarterback out to the wide receiver spot. Oregon State does not do that. They take their quarterback off the field entirely, so it's full 11-on-11 football. And the guy they have running the Wildcat makes it even harder to defend. 6'3", 240-pound senior linebacker Jack Coletto is their Wildcat quarterback, and man is he good at it. He's powerful enough to smash through the front line, but he's also athletic enough that if he needs to get out and run a little bit, he can. He had a 47-yard run last year against Arizona State that really showcased his speed. Now, one thing that really stood out to me is that in the Fresno State game, on the last play of the game, when they had to call their best play, the one they were most confident in to win the game, that's the one they chose. That really tells you a lot. It shows you the confidence. It shows you how much they trust Coletto and the offensive line to get that done. And if I'm USC defensive coordinator Alex Grinch, I look at that and I'm doing that all week in practice. I'm giving that defense that look over and over again, because if it comes down to it in this game, they're going to go to that. It's what they're most comfortable with. Now, talking about that offensive line, this is a really, really big, tall group, especially on that right side of the offensive line. They're both above 325 pounds. Now, USC does not have the size on the interior of their defensive line to take those guys head on and just try to bull rush them. Speed on the defensive line is going to be USC's friend in this game. I'm looking at guys like Dejon Benton, Corey Foreman, Tuli Tuipulotu. They're going to have great games and play great run defense if the USC defense doesn't just want to get stomped in this game. Now, looking at the tight end room for Oregon State, in terms of the pass game, it's pretty much an unknown. Outside of Luke Musgrave, they don't have a guy that has more than one catch on the season in the tight end room. Now let's meet this Oregon State defense. Now, this Oregon State defense definitely is not the strength of their team. Some interesting numbers: they come in as the 67th ranked pass defense, the 71st ranked rush defense, and the 62nd third down defense. So those aren't great numbers there, especially considering that two of the offenses they've played have been a Boise State offense that's been struggling all year, and the FCS school in Montana State. USC and Oregon State both have a common opponent in Fresno State, and Fresno State absolutely lit up this Oregon State defense, both through the air and on the ground. They only sacked Jake Haener once, and they really struggled to get consistent pressure on him throughout the game. In fact, they only have 3 sacks on the entire season. And they've been up in these games, and their opponents have been throwing the ball a lot. They just can't get pressure. And in my opinion, USC has the best starting offensive line in the conference, so that should be a huge advantage for USC. If Caleb has all day to throw, I think it's going to be a real struggle for this Oregon State defense to contain the USC offense. Looking at the defensive line, just personnel-wise, I'd say overall they lack size and athleticism, so I would for sure give the advantage to the USC offensive line. Moving to the linebackers, Kyrie Fisher-Morris is their leading tackler at the inside linebacker position. This isn't the best linebacking core in the conference, and in fact they're actually pretty poor in pass coverage, so that should be an area to target for the USC offense. Now, moving to the secondary, this is definitely the strength of the Oregon State defense. Katan Oladapo is the playmaker in this secondary. He had a huge game against Fresno State. He had 15 tackles and a sack. Watching some of his tape from last year as well as this year, it really stood out to me that he has great vision and great instincts. He plays the ball well, and he will come up and he'll hit you and you'll feel him for sure. The number 1 corner in this Oregon State defense is Rajon Wright. He already has 2 picks on the season. He's been playing some great ball. Now, he's listed at 6'2", 200 pounds, but I actually think he looks a little taller, maybe like 6'3", 6'4", maybe. Regardless, he knows how to use his height to his advantage as well as his reach. USC receivers are going to have to come back to the ball and attack it to ensure he doesn't get his long arms in there. And if you saw him on Last Chance U, you'll know he is not lacking for confidence at all. So maybe early let Jordan Addison go out there and burn him on a deep post to let the doubt start to creep into his head a little bit. Now, this Oregon State defense is not that good. It's definitely not the strength of their team, but they will play with their hair on fire and they do tackle well. So USC has to come out of the gate firing to put some doubt into all their minds. Now let's take a look at my keys to the game. First, for the offense, is keep the trend of scoring on the first 3 possessions. If you didn't know, in the first 3 games of the season, the USC offense has successfully scored a touchdown on their first 3 possessions in each game so far. I think that's going to be critical to get out ahead early and make this Oregon State offense abandon their running game as soon as possible. My second key for the offense is to establish the run. We saw last week what this run game can look like when it's firing on all cylinders. You want to beat this defense down early so that the pass game will be wide open come second, third, fourth quarter. The last one for the offense is get their linebackers in coverage and work the middle of the field. Like I talked about earlier, their linebackers are poor in coverage, so get them out in space against USC's playmakers and don't allow them to settle into the game at all. Now, moving to the defense, it's turnovers, turnovers, turnovers. USC comes into this game having the best turnover differential in the entire country at 10-0. Getting extra possessions for this offense is so critical, it can swing the game entirely. If USC wins the turnover battle, they probably win this game. The second one is play better run defense. This run defense has to step up. This is a legitimate run game that will punch you in the mouth over and over again, and if USC can't stop them, they're going to be in big trouble. Don't overrun your gaps, don't miss tackles, and get penetration. Really big game for this defensive line to prove a lot of people wrong. And the last one is win the red zone battle. This is going to be strength on strength. Oregon State's offense is 100% in the red zone this season, and USC's defense is the number 8 red zone defense in the entire country. Needless to say, if you can get a turnover on downs or even force a turnover and your offense goes down and score, that'll flip the game entirely and give you a great chance to win the game. Alright, so those were my keys to the game. USC overall is the more talented team. They have the better quarterback, better offensive line, better playmakers, but Oregon State will not be afraid or intimidated. They're very well coached. Jonathan Smith may be the most underrated coach in the entire country. Weird stuff just seems to happen in Corvallis. Their stadium is under construction. It's going to be half full. This game has upset potential written all over it. But having said that, my score prediction is USC 45, Oregon State 27. Let me know your score prediction down in the comments. Alright guys, so that's my game preview for USC and Oregon State. Thank you all so much for listening and for all your support. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Fight on!